let's go up. We'll do respiratory here, and then. All right, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
So, cat respiration. The nostrils here, they're called the external nares. The mouth, which is hard to open here. Obviously, the tongue aids in formation of a bolus. The back of the throat, which is called the pharynx. You have the incisors, which are the front teeth. Canines, which are the pointy teeth. They're a lot more pronounced on cats. You have the bicuspids or premolars behind that, and then you have the molars in the back, just like humans do. Okay. Now, if you're looking here, so from the pharynx, which is the back of the throat, if we're talking about respiration, we go through the trachea. And so, actually up here, it's not really dissected out on this one. Okay, you have the larynx, which is this tough structure up here, which also, the thyroid is located right up there with it. And then you can see this rib structure here. Those ribs are hyaline cartilage. They help keep the trachea open. So this is for respiration. So then when we get down in here, the trachea branches. Those are called, there's two bronchi. Those bronchi go to both lungs, one to each lung. And then those bronchi branch into smaller tubes called bronchioles. And those bronchioles branch into little sacs called alveoli. So that's in the lungs. So here's the left lung, here's the right lung. The left lung on a cat has 3 lobes. The right lung on a cat has 4 lobes. Okay, so there's the heart that's been removed there. Okay, so you can see right here that here's the trachea. It branches and goes to both lungs. So you can actually kind of see the bronchi right here. It's one of the bronchi, and right here is the other bronchus. And then they branch in the inside, the little sacs, the alveoli. This structure is the diaphragm. So when it contracts, the thoracic cavity, the volume of the thoracic cavity increases, which decreases pressure, allowing inhalation to occur, so respiration, to breathe in. When this relaxes, the volume of the thoracic cavity decreases, the pressure increases, and exhalation occurs. Okay. So going back up to the mouth, the back of the throat, which is the pharynx, the cat swallows. Okay. The food passes through this muscular tube here. This is called the esophagus. It passes down behind the heart. The esophagus passes, you can see the esophagus right here. It passes through the diaphragm and down into the abdominal cavity and into the stomach. So this is the stomach, it's a J-shaped sac. This tight little opening here, this is called the cardiac sphincter. Basically it regulates, or prevents food from going back up the esophagus. In humans, that causes acid reflux or heartburn. So here's the stomach. Remember, the stomach adds hydrochloric acid. It's also pepsin, which helps break down proteins. Okay, so the food gets churned up. Remember, there's three layers of muscle in there that helps churn the food up. Down here at the end of the stomach, this is the pyloric sphincter, which regulates food going into the small intestine from the stomach. All right. So here's the duodenum, which is the first section of small intestine. And actually back here you can see some of the pancreas. I'm going to go ahead and remove this. This big old mass of tissue here, this is called the greater omentum. Basically, it covers up the abdominal cavity. A lot of fat in it as well. But it can just be removed. No real function for the sake of what we're talking about here. Okay, so underneath the stomach, between the stomach and the spleen, which is right here, you can see this structure right here. Anybody know what that is? That's the pancreas. It kind of looks like chewed up gum. Right there. Okay. Here's some more of it. So it goes here and here. Runs kind of behind the stomach and kind of along the first section of the small intestine, the duodenum here. All right, so the duodenum continues on. Eventually you get to the middle section of small intestine, which is the jejunum, and to the last section of small intestine, which is the ileum. And we'll find that here, hopefully. Work our way backwards. There we go. Okay, so this is the ileum, and you can really see this kind of stained glass opaque layer that holds all the intestines together. This is called mesentery tissue. Its primary function is to keep the small intestines from kind of coiling up and kinking and folding on itself. It also aids in absorption, so you can see that there's a lot of blood vessels that extend through the mesentery. Basically what it does, it takes everything that's absorbed up to the liver for processing before it's distributed out to the body. Alright, so get back to where we were here. Alright. Okay, so you can see where the ileum ends and the large intestine begins, because this bump right here, this is called the cecum. Now in a human that hadn't had it removed, the appendix would be located here. Actually, maybe this kind of looks like it, doesn't it? Maybe not. So this is the cecum. And we go up the first section of small intestine. You can kind of see how it's oriented. You go up the ascending colon, across the transverse colon, down the descending colon, and then out or from the rectum, internal sphincter, anus, external sphincter, kitty litter box. Or if you're on the street, I guess streets of Canada. Okay. Accessory organs of the digestive system. You have the liver. The liver does a lot of things, but one of the most important as far as digestion, the production of bile, which is then stored in the gallbladder here, which is kind of deflated on this one. This is the gallbladder. And from the gallbladder, it's released through the bile duct, which you can see right here. Here's the bile duct. This little tube right here. And then it enters into the duodenum right here. You can actually see where it enters. It goes and attaches right here in the duodenum. The pancreas, which remember helps regulate blood sugar. It also secretes some other enzymes that continue the absorption or the breakdown of materials once they enter the small intestine. It also enters and dumps its contents into the duodenum, really close actually to where the bile duct enters. Small intestine primarily responsible for absorption of the nutrients, continued breakdown of all the macromolecules. The large intestine, removal of water, removal of the last little bit of nutrients, and then defecation, elimination of waste. All right, going down here, this is the urinary bladder. Urinary bladder here. It's deflated. Back here along the back, you have the kidneys, one here and one over here. And then connecting the kidneys to the bladder, you have ureters, which you can actually see some of the ureter here extending off of the kidney right here. So this tube carries the urine down to the bladder for elimination. Okay, let's see if we... Here, right along the top of the kidneys, you have the part of it, looks like, the adrenal glands, okay, which They release adrenaline or epinephrine, that sympathetic nervous system hormone, the fight or flight response. And we also have here a pregnant cat. Okay. So underneath the bladder you can see the uterus right here. This is a lot more pronounced because the cat's pregnant, and the one that's not pregnant, this is a lot smaller. But this is the uterus, and then the oviducts or fallopian tubes that go up here, and you can see each little projection is where a developing embryo is located. And so if you follow the fallopian tubes up, you can actually find the ovary right here. Here's the ovary. Okay, so release of eggs, multiple eggs typically in cats. If fertilization occurs, implantation. And so this is, it looks like 1, 2, 3, would have had a litter of 4 if it would have come to term. If we go back up here to the heart, okay, so you're not going to have to know a whole lot about the heart. We've already had a practical on this. Okay, all I would know is that the major blood vessels coming out of the heart, you have the aorta, and then the vena cavas, which bring blood in. If we were talking about nerves, you need to know that there's spinal nerves that come out from in between each of the vertebrae. Those are spinal nerves that extend off, and they innervate with muscles. The large, big one that runs down the leg, let's see, I don't think they located it. But that's a sciatic nerve. It runs down basically the gluteus maximus, and it runs down the leg. And then there's a big axillary nerve that runs down each of the front legs of the arms. It's up here in the armpit.